We've got Aaron Turner, president of Verus Basketball, the agent for Kevin Knox, Kyra Lewis, Jared Harper, Victor Oladipo, and many others. But Aaron, here in New York, I think people are excited about Kyra Lewis. So I'd like to ask you a few questions about Kyra to start off. We spoke with Kyra recently, and he talked about his ability on the defensive end, what he thinks he could do on defense at this level. What do you think he has shown teams so far on the defensive end?
Yeah, well, I think for Kyra, that's really what people don't realize about him, and is a huge differentiating piece from him for the other guards in this draft. I mean, there's some pretty good guards offensively in this draft. I might be a little biased. I think Kyra's as good as any of them. I think his numbers show that. I think he's out of the top 5 guards that most people, to me, would look at in this draft. I won't name names, but you can get a good feel on that. Kyra fights through a higher percent of screens that he hits. He gets more deflections. He gets blown by in closeouts less. This is all stuff that, like, to me, translates really well to a winning player in the NBA. Maybe there's not right now the hype around his name, but winning, and when you get up here and what differentiates in the long run, winning and losing, I think he checks more boxes than anyone. And I also do think his game is super fun to watch. Like, I've got to watch him get thrown in the fire when we play down in Miami with a bunch of my other guys, playing with and guarding guys like Terry Rozier, Jared Harper, and he's fun. He's got a real pop to his game. People don't really, I think they're not fully aware of it yet because he kind of played at Alabama, which is a little bit off like the national spotlight. But I think very quickly fans, coaches, whoever's around him is going to really fall in love with him because he has, of course, the flair and he's fun, but then he does all this stuff that, helps winning. I mean, he's 6'2.5". He blocked 18 shots last year as a guard. That's a lot. Like he's a two-way player legitimately.
One of the things we've heard about Kyra is he has added some muscle during this pre-draft process, about 15 pounds, I think he said. What have you seen from him on the court with that added weight? How is it transferred to his game on the floor?
It was easy to tell the difference just in terms of just taking that bump. Like you're fighting through a screen. How do you handle that? When you get some contact in the lane, how do you finish? Like, you take a hit and how does that, knock you off your path? And you can see the weight he's put on has helped him. It's all good weight, all his speed and everything is there. One of the things when, Kyra's putting on weight, we want to monitor and make sure it's good weight. It's not bad weight. A lot of guys go, hey, I'm going to put on weight. But if you put on weight and it's not good weight, that doesn't really help either. So just making sure, like, his best asset is his speed. So we never want to lose that, but making sure that he's able to, prepare himself physically to handle this level. And I think quarantine and COVID, what it's done is it's really hard your first 2 years because there's so much coming at you, to take a 2-month period and say, I'm just going to work on my body. I'm going to slow things down because I understand what I'm doing on the court. We've had so much time that it's allowed us to take intervals and say, hey, Kyra, like, let's go a little bit less on the floor right now and really just worry about strength and worry about making sure you're fresh for the weight room. That's something that sometimes doesn't happen until between year 2 and 3. So I think he's totally taken advantage of that, and it's actually helped him be more ready to play next year.
Aaron, you mentioned going from year 2 to year 3 in the NBA. You have another New York client who's doing just that in Kevin Knox, heading into his 3rd NBA season. And John Calipari at Kentucky always said that you have to give Kevin 3 years before you know what he is in this league. So how was his offseason? How's he doing? How's he feeling?
So I've been with Kevin a lot. I think from the standpoint of how he's processing information up here, how he's competing every possession, I've seen a huge improvement. And I've really seen an improvement after being with, Coach Tibbs and Kenny Payne, who was his coach at Kentucky. Like, they have obviously a very close connection. He can really stay on top of Kevin. Like, everybody that's been in the gym with Kevin, trainers that have, myself, everyone's been around him year by year. Like, we all see a real improvement to the point that, people are pulling him over and saying, hey man, I see what you're doing. Like, this is good. I also think, like, this type of adversity early in your career can help you. It kind of wakes you up to the business. It kind of makes you understand like how, cutthroat it can be up here. And I think Kevin is definitely taking the right steps. I've watched him play a bunch. We played the other day. There's a bunch of guys playing, and I watched him, and he was forceful for sure. Am I sitting here and like saying you're going to snap your fingers and like, next year he's going to be first team all defense? Like, no, he's not there, but I think there's for sure going to be a leap. It could be really, really big. That's very possible too, but it's going to be a leap.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Knicks fans are looking forward to seeing Kevin in year 3. And a lot of people talk about the idea that Kenny Payne is here now. Obviously, Payne was Kevin's assistant coach at Kentucky, big influence on Kevin at Kentucky. I think people are wondering, can Kenny impact Kevin at this level? How do you think Kenny's presence can help Kevin?
Oh, yeah, it's going to help him for sure, because when you have somebody that and you trust up here to hold you accountable, but they have your best interests, that goes a long way. Because a lot of guys don't have that up here on their coaching staff. Everything's a business. Who really cares when this person's saying something? Where who knows how they actually feel? Like, there's a level of trust where he can say anything to Kevin, and it's not going to be like, oh, this guy's being hard on me, or he's not being fair to me. It's like, I got you, coach. Like, you're right. I know you're saying this from a good place. So I think it's going to help him tremendously.
Aaron, you also represent Jared Harper, who signed with the Knicks. I don't know if for the Knicks fan that's not that familiar with Jared's game, what can you tell us about him, and what do you think he's expecting going into this year with the Knicks?
Yeah, so most people remember Jared from that Auburn run. He was kind of the catalyst on that team a couple of years back. Like, he literally, most guys, there's a lot of guys you're like, hey, when they come up to the NBA, you can't hang your hat on being able to come in and just, score like that. And you got to do all these other things. But like Jared can score on anyone. He's a tough dude. He fits the profile of like what Coach Thibodeau likes. Like, he's, I think he can be a real change of pace guy for the Knicks. I think he's got a real good shot to be that. I know they like him. I know he had a great bubble. I think he shot 54 or 58% in the bubble from 3. I think he can really shoot it at this level. He's got to keep continuing, and he has really been doing a good job working on growing as a playmaker and defending both ends of the floor, because he can be disruptive. He's very quick. He's got long arms. So I won't be surprised at all, like, if he not only is on the Knicks, but he can be a guy possibly that, well, I don't know if there'll be any fans this year, but could be a type of guy that, really people like light up for and get excited when he comes in the game.
And then you had another client of yours that I think Knicks fans are interested in for different reasons is Victor Oladipo. And I know that Victor, he came out today and he spoke to The Athletic, and he said that he's, firmly committed to the Indiana Pacers. Did you guys just feel that was necessary at this point, that it was the right time to come out and say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just been so much swirling around that at this point it was important that, people know where Vic stands. And, obviously he's been through a lot the last 2 years. Like, I don't think people that aren't around, I think people forget. I think a lot of people look at the injury he had and they'll compare it to a ACL or something that they've seen other people have. This is nothing like that. And I have dealt with a bunch of ACLs. I've dealt with my guys having a lot of injuries. This quad tendon is a totally different rehab. It's a totally different timeline. So, there's been a lot of the last 2 years where he's really had to focus on himself and getting himself back to where he knows he should be, which now I feel like he is in a great place after it's been almost, 22 months now, almost 2 years since the injury in the surgery. So I think that just because of the last 2 years and the injuries and the COVID happening and the bubble, there's just been a lot of like speculation from people that don't really understand, what's going on and what he's been through. So I think this time he's used it very, very well. I think his body is in a much better place. I think he is ready to really take a lot of people by storm this season. I'm excited. Like, I'm so ready to watch him play because he looks like really good. Really, really good. Different pop to him than people saw in the bubble.
If he's back, I think that's just better for the NBA. So that people are excited.
Yeah.